Welcome to Watch Review Repeat. This is the podcast where two best friends discuss the latest in film and television and then do it all over again the following week. My name is Colton Brown, and joining me is Andrew Meadows.
Colton Brown, how you doing tonight?
I'm a little stressed out, I'm not going to lie. I've got some things swirling around in my head, but that's all right.
Disclose it. What the fuck's going on, man? Why are you so stressed? Let's talk about it on the podcast.
This is the last episode of the podcast that I'm going to be personally recording from Jacksonville, Florida. So I'm moving soon, and I've got lots of packing to take care of, and I'll be much happier come like a week from now. Everything should be great.
So you got some stress going on about like where you're going to end up and all this other stuff, or?
Yeah, just a little anxiety just about the move itself and getting settled into my final destination as well. So I don't know, it's a lot to kind of have on my plate. I feel like it kind of just crept up on me, or I don't know. Anyway, I'll get it done, but it's eating away at me at the moment.
I got a fun fact for this week. I have a broken back, apparently. I went to the chiropractor today. My shit's broken. So, I don't know. Today's a big day for the both of us, I guess. You know?
Yeah.
Just laugh about it. What are you going to do? Just get your shit done, dude.
Yeah, well, get my shit done. That's pretty much it. Or fix your back, I guess, if you can.
That's it. Yeah, well, I don't know what's to be done about my problem, but, I've lived with it for however many years it's been broken, so, I mean, it can't be too bad. But, I'm excited about this week, man. We covered Ocean's 8 and The Incredibles 2, and I think I'm excited to talk at least about one of them.
Yeah, I think it'll be a good double feature that we have. Another double feature for our listeners. We're basically still playing catch up at this point, and you can especially feel it when we get to the news section. It's just so much that just our recording schedule has been kind of off and on. And so we're trying to do our best to kind of keep pace. We're still a little bit behind, but this is at least one step toward keeping things relatively on track. So maybe one day we'll be good, all good and caught up. But for now, we're gonna cover what we can. We've got a couple movies to talk about, some news to talk about, a few good things to talk about. So it should be fun, and hopefully a good way to get maybe both of our minds off of things for at least a little while. So. Do you have an actual movie-related fun fact, or is that are you going to actually claim that as your fun fact this week?
No. I do have a fun. Yeah, my broken back's a fun fact. No. Yeah. So in prior to The Incredibles 2 showing in traditional Pixar fashion, they have a little short film called Bao.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And in Chinese, this means steamed bun, or something precious. And I think that the Fandango article that I picked up about The Incredibles 2, it says that bao literally means both. And in the context of the little short film, it definitely means both. So that's my fun fact. Bao means steamed bun or something precious, which is almost a kickback to our original fun fact about gherkins, meaning pickles. So, yeah, we're talking about food again. But yeah, that's my fun fact. I don't know. I don't have a whole lot, but that's it.
Well, it's good enough for me.
You heard it here first.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's the first time I heard it, so there you go. I mean, that's true from a certain point of view. We got a lot of news to get into. This is kind of a compilation of news that's come out really over the past month, pretty much since the beginning of June. I think there's one or two maybe from the tail end of May as well. We covered a ton of trailers on our last episode, so we're not going to obviously get into those again. But this is just kind of the bits and pieces that fell by the wayside, and so we just tried to organize it as much as possible in a way that hopefully facilitates a little bit of conversation, but we don't get too bogged down in it in all of it. So we'll try to keep it going at a pretty good pace. We got a couple movies to get into in a little bit. So first thing we'll talk about is the next adaptation of Spawn.
Ooh.
The comic book character Spawn, created by Todd McFarlane back in the 90s. This is a very 90s character. So Mr. McFarlane is actually going to be directing another film feature of the character Spawn. He, of course, was portrayed by Michael Jai White in the late 90s in a movie that has not aged all that well. I'm not sure that it was particularly good at the time, to be fair, but as a kid, I remember enjoying it. It's got a pretty good John Leguizamo performance as the Violator, though, so we'll give it credit for that. But he's directing a new movie centered around the character, and we've learned that Jamie Foxx is going to be starring as Spawn.
Okay. You know, I don't. The first Spawn didn't do a. I don't have the fondest memories of that movie. I remember his cape being absolutely ridiculous, which I think it is in the comics, to be fair. At least I think it is. But yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll see what happens.
Yeah, well, I think as far as the cape, they tried to use some CG technology that was clearly not where it needed to be, and so it just kind of looked like a massive juice, like cranberry juice just kind of flowing around them. It's kind of what it looked like. So the hope is that the technology is probably a little bit more up to speed these days, given that we're 20 years, later. But it's going to be a very low budget version of it. $10 to $12 million is what they're talking
Holy
for the budget
shit.
of this thing. Dark R rating for it. So I don't know. I mean, could be interesting. Kind of taking it for a more gritty, low budget approach. So we'll see. I don't know. I mean, it could work.
Let me see a trailer.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it. I just feel like Spawn's such a 90s character for me that I don't know if it works kind of as its own thing, but maybe with a little bit of modernization and updating, it could work. So yeah, bring on the trailer. We'll talk about it again then. Wow, man. I just took a quick look at what was next on my list that I assembled for us to talk about. I think we might have said something about this on our Philadelphia trip, but Jared Leto is reportedly going to be starring in his own feature film taking place in the DC Extended Universe. Of course, another spin at the Joker, continuing from his debut in 2016 Suicide Squad.
Oh, shit.
In which he just owned the screen with his damaged forehead tattoo and his grill, and
it's a thing. It's gonna happen.
Well, there's two Joker movies being made by DC right now, which just blows my mind because that's two more than anyone ever asked for, as far as I'm aware. Certainly, probably it's like three more than I've asked for. I don't understand what they're doing over there. It baffles the mind to think that somewhere
some point you just can't be surprised. I mean,
I know I shouldn't be, but it's just one of those things where who was asking for this? I mean, I don't get it. Like, I would bury this version of the Joker as deep as you possibly can, and then never mention it again. So I don't know. I'm gonna get frustrated talking about this just because I just my hope is this is one of the 15 DC movies that they announced that just never gets made. Like, I would be fine with that. I mean, like their whole company mantra basically is let's announce 50 DC movies and we'll kind of gauge the fan response maybe, and then if everyone's like, what the fuck is this? Fuck you. Then they'll be like, okay, yeah, maybe we'll put that one on the back burner for a few years and maybe we'll trot it out again and see what happens then. So maybe this will be one of the forgotten projects. That's my hope, because as much as I enjoy comic book movies, as much as I enjoy DC characters and comics, and particularly the character of the Joker, as he is traditionally portrayed, i.e. not what we got in Suicide Squad, I should want this, but like this is something that just actively pisses me off. The thought that this is something that may happen. But
and I don't want to sound down on the character of the Joker, but do you want a Joker independent of Batman?
No. He doesn't need his own movie. He should never be a protagonist. Hell, he shouldn't even be an anti-hero of his own movie. He's the fucking Joker.
Yeah.
Like his whole thing is he's completely insane out there. Like, he shouldn't have a discernible character arc, which is kind of the foundation for probably a good movie, is to have a character that goes through some sort of evolution throughout the movie. If it's just the Joker being crazy, I'm sending used condoms and dead rats to people, like, fuck off. I don't want that. No one wants that.
Well, that's what you're getting, bitch, so deal with it.
Yeah, well, I'll say, I'm sure something will bomb. Maybe Aquaman will bomb, and then they'll be like, all right, we got to scrap everything again.
Oh, man. One day they'll you just have hopes that they'll figure it out one day, or Disney will buy DC as well. That might be a thing, so.
Yeah, probably not, but we can talk about something that I think we can get a little bit more excited about, maybe a lot more excited about. Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood has even more casting that's been announced for it. I think this thing might have assembled the greatest cast in history. I mean, when all is said and done, this is a ridiculous combination of actors and actresses joining it. So James Marsden is among those who has joined it in an undisclosed role. Some folks have speculated he might be playing Charles Manson, but nothing has outright confirmed that. And in addition, I think some of these had been announced previously, but I think they're new to me, probably as an extension new to you. Damian Lewis joining the cast, Luke Perry, Emile Hirsch, Dakota Fanning, Clifton Collins Jr., Keith Jefferson, and Nicholas Hammond. And they all join the cast of Leonardo DiCaprio, Brad Pitt, Margot Robbie, Burt Reynolds, Timothy Olyphant, and Al Pacino, who was also recently announced. Al Pacino is going to be in this as well. So
mercy.
That's stacked. That is quite stacked.
Well, I'm pretty excited about that, I can say. So, we'll see what happens with that movie.
Well,
I think I'll be seeing that day one, though, for sure.
It's going to be better than the Joker movie. We can definitively say that right now. You heard it here first.
You heard it here first.
I guess while we're somewhat on the subject of DC movie news, we got a first look at the Wonder Woman sequel, which apparently seems to be titled Wonder Woman 1984. Perhaps because it takes place in 1984, or because it's the 1984th Wonder Woman movie. Maybe they've made a lot in between the first one and this one. Look, it's entirely possible. It's just probably not likely. So our first look on this is pretty interesting. We've got Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman kind of staring at a bunch of screens, have some 1980s imagery, very colorful. And we also have a look at Mr. Chris Pine returning as what appears to be Steve Trevor, sporting some 1980s tracksuit apparel. So what's going on there? I don't know. That's a good question.
Yes, you pose your own question. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Again,
I mean, I
feel like I say that a lot, but I mean, what do you have to say? I don't have a whole lot to say until we get a trailer. So
yeah. Well, what do you think about the 1980s setting?
Of course. I mean, it sounds fucking cool. And Patty Jenkins is obviously a boss. She owns the character. I would appreciate in this movie if we didn't end it with some sort of, I don't know, whatever we got from the last one in the third act. I didn't appreciate that a whole lot, but I thought the movie as a whole was pretty strong. So, yeah, I think 84 is a cool place to set the movie, and I am excited to see where they take Wonder Woman in the 80s. I think it should be fun and exciting. Yeah, that's my opinion.
Wow, what a hot take.
What do you think about that?
No, I'm excited by the 80s setting. I still feel like if they're trying to keep this in line with Diana that basically shut herself off from the world, according to Batman v Superman, it doesn't make sense for her to have any sort of action in between her first movie and this one, but I'm totally okay with them just ignoring the continuity because it's obvious that DC doesn't give a fuck anyway. So yeah, it's cool. I'm very curious how they're bringing Steve Trevor back. I don't know if it's. I mean, he's specifically in 80s gear, which to me implies that he's there. He's not some sort of hallucination or anything like that. So I don't know if time travel fuckery or maybe he was frozen like Captain America or what's going on. Maybe there's some magic shit where he comes back to life. I don't know. Lazarus Pits. Who knows? I don't know.
Don't think about it.
But we'll find out when it comes out. I think it's due November 2019, so it's about a year and a half away. So
we're going a long ways.
It's the one DC movie that I am legitimately like, yeah, I'm ready for this. I would like this. Please give me more of this and less of everything else. In fact, nothing of everything else would be fine. Moving on to the first female Marvel Studios superhero film that we're getting, Captain Marvel. We've received word that composer Pinar Toprak is going to be working on the film, which makes her the first woman to score a Marvel Studios film.
Ooh, that's a big deal, dude.
Yeah, it's pretty fitting, of course. She's worked on the Krypton TV show for Sci-Fi, and she's done the music for a video game the kids seem to enjoy these days called Fortnite. And yeah, it's very appropriate. I'm not overly familiar with her work, but I'm glad that they're. It's one of those things. Like female composer. Like I can't think of another female composer in Hollywood. And that's probably a problem, So
that's something that, I've never really thought about that. I can't think of any either.
So I'm not saying that there aren't, but in terms of kind of the mainstream popularity, pretty much I think most of the well-known composers are all male. So it's good to see some representation here, and I'm very curious to see this movie. See how it turns out. But I'm excited to hear a score for it too. Hopefully she gets a very fitting, theme, a character theme, and maybe we'll hear it reprised in Avengers 4. That'll be cool.
Interesting enough, she worked under composer Hans Zimmer at Media Ventures, now known as Remote Control Productions. So I don't know any of those companies, but that was on our Wikipedia page. So
okay,
yeah.
Very good. Very good. So some news over at Pixar and Disney Animation. So the chief creative officer, John Lasseter, basically stepped down from that role sometime, I think maybe a few months ago, due to some unspecified quote-unquote missteps, as he describes them. So I think there was some harassment complaints and general things that should not happen in a workplace, really anywhere, but definitely not in a workplace. So he's basically gone from the company, and basically that left this void at the top of Pixar, at the top of Disney Animation, and they've announced the successors to those roles. So Pete Docter is going to be taking over at Pixar, and Jennifer Lee will be taking over at Disney Animation. And both of them have a pretty strong background in both of these companies, respectively. So Pete Docter was a director of Up, Inside Out, Monsters, Inc., and Jennifer Lee worked on Frozen, which is a massive movie, and I think she's currently working on the Frozen sequel. So definitely a good resume for both. Oh, and she worked on Wreck-It Ralph, one of your favorites.
What?
She's a co-writer for it.
Excellent. I'm all about it.
So yeah, it seems like good picks across the board. It's good that they are hiring in-house. It seems like people that have had large amounts of success working for these respective companies. So it seems fitting to give them the opportunity to basically kind of spearhead the future for both these companies moving forward. So yeah, Pixar and Disney Animation, especially in recent years, have been really, really outstanding overall. And maybe we'll talk about a Pixar movie that might be incredible as well in just a little while. What could it be? And more kind of, I guess, just kind of company news, less movie specific or anything like that. There's been kind of a back and forth battle between Disney and Comcast over the 21st Century Fox assets. Have you been following this at all, just out of curiosity?
I may have heard a little thing. I think that Comcast was supposed to take they battled them for a little bit, and then Disney came through and swooped in and took it. Is that about right? Is that what happened?
More or less. So nothing is completely done at this point. Basically, I think we talked about it many months back that Disney put out its initial offer to purchase them for $52 billion in stock options.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it's a lot. And at that point, Fox agreed to it. Everything is good, but it has to go through a lot of regulatory approval. There's a lot of things that just have to happen before it's quote unquote a done deal. Before you can start thinking about, oh shit, Marvel can start playing with the X-Men or whatever. It's a lot more than that, obviously, and that's something that gets me excited, but there's a lot more to it than just that. But basically what happened is that Comcast says, well, we're interested in this too. And so they throw out a $65 billion offer, all in cash. So nothing in stock options, just purely a cash offer. And so, I mean, it's a lot of money. Obviously, it's, $13 billion more than what Disney had offered in a different medium. So, depending on how the Foxx board reads it, that could be more valuable to have cash, or maybe it could be more valuable to have Disney stock. It just depends on kind of, the rich people will, how much richer would I like to get? Would I like to get richer in this form, or would I like to get richer in this other form? But Disney has countered that Comcast cash offer with now a $71 billion cash and stock bid. So a bit of both. So $71 billion. Obviously, Comcast, if nothing else, has raised the purchase price for Disney. But my understanding is that Comcast was basically going to assume a ton of debt to even be good on that cash offer. So, whether or not they can even bump themselves past Disney's newest offer, that remains to be seen. But either way, I mean, Fox, it's going to get sold at this point. At this point, it's just a bidding war between Disney and Comcast, and I think Disney's, from what I've heard, from what I've read, I think Disney's in a better position for it. Fox seems more amenable to Disney. I personally think that, assuming that the sale is going to happen, which at this point there's no reason to suspect that it's going to get called off for any reasons other than antitrust laws, which the AT&T and Time Warner merger basically just went through. So that's not really a major concern at this point in time. I would rather see Disney own it, not only from the perspective of, Marvel Studios gets a lot more toys to play with, but in the sense that Disney is much more of a horizontal monopoly, if you wanted to even look at it that way, where they're purely an entertainment company, whereas Comcast has such a vertical reach that I feel like you enter much more treacherous territory because, they're the biggest or one of the biggest ISPs in the country. There's just a lot more stuff going on with Comcast beyond just making movies, whereas Disney is kind of that, TV shows and stuff like that. And, Disney obviously owns other things here and there, ABC, ESPN and all that, but still.
Entertainment.
Yeah, I feel more comfortable with Disney owning it versus Comcast. Also, fuck Comcast. So
fuck Comcast. That's the biggest reason.
So that was a lot of words to explain that lots of money is going to be passed around at some point, but yeah, I mean that's where the things on it stand right now. So I guess if there's any updates we can come back to it. But other than that, it's just a matter of waiting for it to get finalized. So we'll see what happens with it.
That's it.
Back to some movie news. We got an official trailer for Creed 2. Very exciting, I think. What do you think?
I thought it looked good.
See what happens?
I think, yeah, well, no, I don't even really need to see what happens. I think it's going to be great.
Yeah. Looks good. It looks, very similar to the first one, which I know I've spoken about on the podcast at length and saying that I love the first one. And I'm a little sad still that Ryan Coogler couldn't come back to direct this one, but given that he gave us Black Panther and its place, I am not all that broken up about it. And it seems like from the trailer, Stephen Caple Jr. is doing a pretty solid job himself. Yeah, I mean, looks great. Returning cast: Michael B. Jordan, Sylvester Stallone, Tessa Thompson, and basically we can kind of see by the end of the trailer that it's setting up that Adonis Creed will be battling the son of Ivan Drago, the Dolph Lundgren's character. He'll be battling his son in the ring. So, it could be a little hokey, I feel, but based on this trailer, I thought it looked pretty good. Looks pretty intense. Looks like everyone's, really putting their heart and soul into it again. So I'm definitely very excited to see this movie.
Yeah, no, the first one was excellent. First one left me shook. So, really excited to see where they continue the growth of the character and everything else. I think it'll be good.
November 30th, 2018. So got half a year to wait on that one. That's too bad.
Not too bad.
I think we can do it. So there were some rumors, I think probably within the past couple weeks. I think Collider was the initial report on this, that in the wake of Solo, a Star Wars story, not doing particularly well at the box office, it did quite poorly. That Lucasfilm was kind of slowing down on the spin-off train, and that they weren't going to make, maybe the Obi-Wan movie, maybe the Boba Fett movies that had been rumored and talked about. So since that initial report, basically Lucasfilm has characterized it as inaccurate, which to me suggests that they are definitely still at least spinning the wheels on some of these other projects. I mean, to be fair, there's only a few movies that have been really, quote-unquote, officially announced, per Lucasfilm, per StarWars.com, and those are, of course, Episode 9, which we know is coming out at the end of next year, and then the 2 trilogies that are being worked on by Last Jedi director Rian Johnson, and then the other one that the Game of Thrones guys, David Benioff and D.B. Weiss, are working on. So we talked about Boba Fett very recently, that James Mangold was attached to that, but basically, until we hear anything otherwise, everything is still on track. Hopefully Solo is just kind of a bump in the road for them. And I would think it is. I mean, it's fucking Star Wars. Obviously that one had a lot of production troubles, and I think if they didn't spend $300 million on it, it wouldn't be so bad. If they only had to film it once, it wouldn't be so bad, but certainly not any. Yeah. Well, I don't think it's any cause to everyone's, running around in a panic. I don't really see that. I mean, it's Star Wars, it sells itself for the most part. Obviously not enough that anything can come out and make a buck, but I don't know. It seemed kind of odd to me that Lucasfilm would learn all the wrong lessons here, and if this is any indication, then that initial report is not correct. So we'll obviously see what happens with this, but I don't expect them to slow things down at any point in the future. I mean, it's pretty much been on a 1 per year cycle, and I think that's probably the way to do it. Maybe if Solo made 10 times what it did, then they might start getting on the Marvel train of doing 2 to 3 a year. But I think at this point, keeping it 1 a year, I think that's the way to go. So as far as we can tell, I mean, that's pretty much how they've got it set up for the next few years to come. So
yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, I agree. I was taking a swig of my drink.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I gave such a dismal response.
We've got the last of the Losers Club, the adult versions of the Losers Club for It Chapter 2. So the young Mike was played by Chosen Jacobs, and the adult Mike is going to be played by Isaiah Mustafa, who you might recognize as the Old Spice spokesman, the shirtless man.
For real?
Yeah, for real.
Holy shit. Okay. All right. That's cool.
So, yeah. So he's going to be Mike. He's going to be Mike Hanlon in It Chapter 2, which completes the Losers Club. And there's been a few other announcements as well to the cast. So Teach Grant's going to be playing the adult Henry Bowers. He was the dickhead bully. And then Will Beinbrink will be playing Beverly's husband. Xavier Dolan will be playing a Derry resident, Adrian Mellon, who's, I think, described as an openly gay man that gets bullied. And then Jess Weixler is going to be playing Bill's wife, Audra Denbrough. So a lot more casting. I think it's actually started production. I believe James McAvoy posted something about it starting production. So very excited to see this movie. Stellar cast that they've assembled, and first one was real good. So
sure this one will be no exception, man.
Well, I mean, the pieces are in place. Same director, kids are coming back too, and
Old Spice. Yeah. I'm all about it.
Old Spice is in it. Yeah, September 6th, 2019 is when it's going to open. A couple more movie related news. Actually, both of these are Spider-Man related. Well, first one should be Spider-Man related. We'll see if that is actually the case if this movie does get made. So Sony is developing a Silk movie. who is a Spider-Man character. She's a Korean-American heroine named Cindy Moon, is her alter ego. And so she's got spider-like powers. Basically, she actually was literally bitten by the same spider that bit Peter Parker.
Oh, okay.
Her power set is very similar. And, it's for that reason that I kind of wonder, because Sony's making Venom right now that basically has no discernible ties to Spider-Man, despite the fact that Venom, as a character, is 100% reliant upon Spider-Man's existence.
Like the Joker in Batman, almost.
Yeah, kind of, I guess. To a lesser extent, I mean, like this Silk character, obviously it could just be a random spider bite, and then they can obviously make it in a way that disconnects it from the Spider-Man character. But as far as we can tell, this is just Sony doing their thing. This is no Marvel Studios involvement. So by extension, we would imagine that there would be no Tom Holland Spider-Man involvement. So as far as we know, this is just Sony doing their own thing. And we've seen the Venom trailers, real shit. I don't think Sony knows what they're doing. And so that's kind of my feeling on this. So it's very conflicted in the sense of, fuck yes, I love the Silk character. I'd love to see a Silk movie if properly integrated into if nothing else, a Spider-Man universe. Maybe if this was Sony just had just the Spider-Man rights and, he wasn't part of Marvel Studios, it'd be cool to see a Silk character. But to see a Silk character, as far as we could tell, basically totally separated from, though both the Spider-Man character and all of the supporting cast, it's just kind of like, why are you doing it then? But it's Sony, and that is all the reason I need to know that, oh, Sony's doing it? Yeah, why not? Of course they are. Fuckers.
That's what they are, man.
But it's happening, apparently. It's another one. So we'll see what happens with it, It might get thrown into the stack of the Silver and Blacks, the Morbius the Living Vampire movies, of what are you doing, man? What are you doing? But, I'll just leave it at that. If we get some more concrete news maybe in the future, then we can pick that thread back up. Last bit of movie news, like I said, also Spider-Man related, is that we have received the title for the Spider-Man Homecoming sequel. Now, Avengers Infinity War spoilers, some of you might be wondering, how could you have a Spider-Man Homecoming sequel? Spider-Man is dead. Got
a new Spider-Man.
This is kind of the unfortunate nature of the decisions they made in splitting Avengers 3 and 4. I think when all is said and done, it'll make sense, why there's a Spider-Man Homecoming sequel. You obviously don't know the nature of how that's going to happen, but we do know that Sony is set to start production on this movie. It's going to start filming, actually, I think in a couple weeks from now, and it's going to be called Spider-Man Far From Home.
Ooh.
So, I didn't love it at first pass, but it definitely continues, at least carries forward the use of the word home from Homecoming, so I kind of enjoy that connectivity. And according to the Hollywood Reporter article, they're basically confirming Jake Gyllenhaal as the Spider-Man villain Mysterio. So that's pretty cool.
Fucking awesome. Yeah, that's cool.
So I'm pretty excited about that. And I'm very excited to see what they have in store. I'm a huge fan of Homecoming. We talked about it on our third bonus episode, our Marvel Cinematic Universe Phase 3 bonus episode, how much I enjoyed Homecoming, and I am very, very excited to see the continuation of that storyline. Homecoming director John Watts returning to direct this one, and of course Tom Holland will be back in some form. Maybe it takes place before Infinity War. I guess it's possible, right?
Yeah, it's possible.
Probably not, but it's possible.
It could happen. It's possible. Anything's possible.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. You like the title?
I think the relationship from Homecoming and then Far From Home is interesting. It's like a contrast, Mm-hmm. I think it's cool. I think it's fine. Yeah. Especially since he disintegrated into fucking dirt. Presumably he would be very far from home, wherever the fuck he's at.
Well, he was very far from home on Titan, where he was fighting Thanos.
Yeah. Exactly. So, I don't know. I think it's fine. I mean, I feel like with titles, it's difficult until you find the context of the movie. You know, I think Far From Home is fine. Spider-Man: Far From Home is okay. It is what it is. It's a fucking title. It's all right.
Mm-hmm.
Television news.
Yeah, you ready to get into television news?
Let's do it.
All right, so a little bit less here, but some good stuff nonetheless. First thing we're going to talk about as far as television news is another passing of a celebrity, unfortunately. This is someone that I think, at least the response around his death, it seemed like it really shook a lot of people. And it was a man that I've watched his programs a few times, and I've always enjoyed his work. But Anthony Bourdain, dead at 61, committed suicide.
Oh, man.
Yeah, pretty tough one. I watched No Reservations on and off. I go through my Travel Channel phases, and then he's worked on Parts Unknown for CNN over the past few years as well, which is, I think, actually still currently airing. So definitely a titan of industry, I think, as far as kind of travel hosts. He was a chef as well, kind of, before he kind of took on that newfound celebrity, and definitely someone I think that had a lot of insight into life, and obviously, he had some crippling depression. I think that, he never obviously couldn't quite break through that mold. So very, very sad to hear about that. There's a lot of people that have come out and offered their condolences. Former President Obama put a post on Twitter that was pretty profound, I thought. And definitely something that came out of nowhere, big time. Very shocking to hear about this, and definitely sad news.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you watched any of his programs or anything in the past, but
I know his name, but I don't think I'm not familiar with him.
Yeah, well, I know I've seen, even just, in my personal networks, I've seen a lot of, people that obviously were moved by his work. So definitely hard to hear about that. And I don't have really much else to offer on that, but definitely sad to hear about that. So rest in peace, Mr. Bourdain. Moving more into kind of, I guess, more proper television news, I guess. At least, maybe some shows that we watch. This is a show that I haven't watched since its first season, and that is The Walking Dead, where there's some upheaval that is happening behind the scenes. So the main character, the star of the show, Andrew Lincoln, is going to be parting ways in the 9th season. So that's a pretty big deal. And additionally, one of the main characters as well, Lauren Cohan, who plays Maggie, is also going to be leaving the show during its 9th season. So that's a pretty big deal for a show of this nature. We'll see if they take the Walking Dead approach of just murdering all his characters, or if they're going to leave some sort of window for them possibly to come back. But I haven't watched The Walking Dead in many years myself. Seeing something like this doesn't really make me, excited to like maybe go into it at some point. To me, it just feels like, look, if half your cast is leaving,
it might be time to call it, dude.
Yeah, do you get that impression?
Yeah. Well, I was on the boat there for a while, and I called it. So
yeah, I don't know. It just seems like, hey, maybe the light bulb should start going off at a certain point. But apparently, Norman Reedus is negotiating a new deal that will pay him over $20 million to basically be the top billed actor in the show. So kudos to him for getting a future payday, I guess.
Right.
But yeah, I don't see myself ever going and watching this. It's something that should appeal to me. Like, it should 100% be a thing that I would love, but I just don't care. And everything I've seen suggests that I have no reason to. So that's where I am. That's where I am with it. I did see that John Bernthal apparently is going to come back for a couple episodes of work next season. I would imagine it's probably something to do with how they're getting Rick off the show. But I guess, I don't know. I guess we'll see what happens with that. it's still not enough for me to get into it. Obviously, he was a series regular for, I guess, probably the first 2 seasons as Shane. And I saw half of that, so I got all the John Bernthal Walking Dead fill I need, and I'll just keep watching The Punisher for more Bernthal in the future. So works out well.
Yeah.
Legion has been renewed for a 3rd season over at FX.
Very nice. I'm excited about that.
Yeah, did you? I haven't finished it, so no spoilers right now. But have you finished the 2nd season?
I have finished the 2nd season.
Yeah, what'd you think about it?
I thought it was awesome.
Okay. I've heard some mixed things about it kind of towards the end, so I feel like if you had disliked it strongly, I would have heard something about it already. But I've enjoyed the weirdness of the, I think, 3 or 4 episodes that I've watched in the 2nd season, so I'm quite a bit behind. I'm behind on everything, like ridiculously behind on everything as a side note, but I'm happy to see that a show like Legion can get a 3rd season, because it's definitely not a show made for everyone. But it seems like a show made for me. So very, very much looking forward to catching up on the rest of the season and jumping in on season 3 when it airs sometime in 2019. And imagine you feel the same way.
Absolutely.
Very good. What do you feel about the Sharp Objects TV show coming to HBO?
I think that looks interesting. I'm real excited about it. I think the trailers that keep coming out are the ones that, or let me rephrase that, the trailer that keeps getting put in front of me before Westworld episodes. I think, I don't know. I'm excited about it. I think I'll definitely pick it up.
Yeah, it does look interesting. I like Amy Adams a lot, and seems like it looks pretty good. I guess it's a limited series. 8 episodes is what it looks like, and based on book of the same name. I haven't read it, but seems to have pretty good buzz around it. So yeah, looks good. Starts July 8th, so that's pretty much right around the corner. And I'll probably give it a look at some point. Maybe I might wait, until a few episodes are out there. But yeah, definitely looks very interesting from the trailer. So I'm looking forward to it. We got another trailer for a Showtime series called Kidding, with Jim Carrey as the main character. I know we talked about it very briefly on our preview episode for 2018, but we didn't have a whole lot of information on it beyond just kind of the synopsis. But now that we've had a look at the footage for it here, what'd you think about it?
Looked heavy as fuck, dude.
Yeah.
I don't know how to feel about it. I thought it looked interesting. I thought it looked like it could be good, but like I said, it looks super heavy. And I don't know. I maybe try the pilot and see how it goes.
Yeah. I feel like Jim Carrey looks pretty great in it, so I'm kind of. I feel like I haven't had a good Jim Carrey feel in a while.
I think the Jim Carrey feel that, at least the Jim Carrey feel that I feel like I would be compelled to watch is different than what I'm going to get. Not that it's a bad thing.
This is definitely much more dramatic.
And it's not a bad thing. Jim Carrey is he's a good dramatic actor. I don't think there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just it looks like really heavy. It looks like really heavy shit. So I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'll probably give this a look at some point too, along with the other millions of series that I say that about and then never do. But if the reviews are good, then why not? September 9th is when it premieres, so I got a little bit of time to wait on that one. So yeah, we'll see where it goes. Atlanta has been renewed for a 3rd season at FX as well. So FX is they're just throwing these things out like candy, but they're well-deserved renewals. So we appreciate them. I haven't watched season 2 of Atlanta. Pretty sure you still haven't watched any of Atlanta. And as a side note, the 1st season is on Hulu. If you are looking for anything to watch in the near future.
Okay.
So yeah, it's great. At least the 1st season I can swear by as being great. I've heard nothing but good things about the 2nd season as well. So Donald Glover, yes please, give me more of him, and Atlanta and other things that he does. He can just do whatever he wants. I'll watch it. He's that kind of guy for me at this point. But more Atlanta is always appreciated. HBO has ordered a Game of Thrones prequel pilot.
Ooh.
What do you think about that?
I'm curious to see what kind of territory they cover in a prequel.
Well, I can tell you a little bit about what I might cover.
Oh, shit. Okay, what do you got? Tell me about it.
All right, so I have, and I quote, set thousands of years before the events of Thrones, the project chronicles the world's descent from the golden age of heroes into its darkest hour. Only one thing is for sure, from the horrifying secrets of Westeros' history to the true origin of the White Walkers, the mysteries of the East to the Starks of legend, it's not the story we think we know.
Ooh, it's covering what I wanted them to cover. Dude, I'm all about it.
Oh, sounds pretty cool. So it's just a pilot for now, but I think HBO is developing like 900 Game of Thrones, like prequels, sequels, whatever's.
Why wouldn't you?
So the fact that they're giving this one the green light to me suggests that maybe they got something, that they're happy with. And Mr. George R.R. Martin is involved with this. I believe he is co-writing the screenplay for the pilot, and that's pretty cool. He co-wrote the story, but he's not actually doing the teleplay himself. He's busy not writing The Winds of Winter, as we all know. So, it's going to be created by Jane Goldman, who's worked on Kick-Ass and Kingsman previously with Matthew Vaughn. So, that seems like a pretty strong pedigree, and I agree. It's exciting for them to explore this era. It makes so much more sense to just go way far back in time because there's so much lore that they could really get into, and it keeps them away from doing the same thing over again. Look, we all like Game of Thrones a lot, but it's cool to let it stand on its own and just do something totally wildly different, yet still kind of tangentially connected. I think that's definitely the way to go. So cool, very cool news. Hopefully it turns out well. Hopefully the pilot turns out well enough that we can get a full series out of it. A new Game of Thrones.
I'm all about it.
All about it. I'm all about the Glow Season 2 trailer that we got. Did you watch this trailer just out of curiosity?
I did watch the trailer. I didn't watch the first season, but
right, that's why I asked.
It does, from the prospect of this, or just from the perspective of this trailer, it looks interesting. It looks like something worth. I can definitely attest to the quality of the first season. So that's another one. If you're looking for things to watch in the near future, give it a look on Netflix. The first one's a lot of fun, and it's kind of a breezy show too. I think it's half-hour episodes, and I think maybe 10 of them overall. So ooh, that's my jam.
It doesn't have the usual Netflix. Oh my God, there's 500 episodes and each one's 7 hours long. Kind of pacing problems that you run into. And season 2 is it's actually a few days away from when we're recording this, June 29th. So, I mean, hell, by the time we get around to finishing the first season, it might be time to jump right into the second season. So, no better time than the present, I say.
Right.
Just an idea, just throwing it out there. It doesn't have to be specifically for you, Andrew. Any of our listeners that, are maybe curious about this show. Again, really, really, really good fun. Strong cast, and it has that nice 80s feel to it. I think both you and I enjoy the 80s feel to things, and I think that this one's got style. So, look, just have a look, why don't you? Tom Clancy's Jack Ryan, starring Jim from The Office, has received an official trailer.
And Jim from The Office looks like a badass. I'm all about it.
He does. He's got that nice Jack Ryan blend of kind of, they at least hint at him just kind of being like a bookworm and just riding the desk. But then, there's bits of him kind of being a little bit more badass too. So I feel like they're striking a nice balance between the two, and he's been crushing it this year. So this looks like it's continuing the trend.
It's true. What a year Jim from The Office has had. That's all I can say.
Yeah, it does look good though. Still a good ways away. August 31st. I guess that's not too far away now that I think about it, but a couple months time until that rolls around. It's coming to Amazon Prime as an exclusive there, and I feel like I don't really get too much into the Amazon Prime shows, but I think this is one that I'll probably give a look pretty early on, just kind of based on how this is shaping up.
Yeah. Might be the first Amazon Prime series I actually watch.
Yeah. Looks good. Last bit of TV news. We are finally here. Star Trek Discovery has had a little bit of a behind-the-scenes snafu. So showrunners Aaron Harberts and Gretchen Berg have been fired from the series. I guess they were verbally berating the writer's room and creating a very hostile work environment, and CBS stepped in and said, all right, see ya. Grab your shit, you're gone. And Alex Kurtzman, who I think was an executive producer of it, is now taking over as the showrunner for the remainder of season 2. I think they'd filmed 4 episodes. And I think another reason was that the 4 episodes had run significantly over budget. So poorly managed, and they were just being general assholes about it. So they're gone. In comes Alex Kurtzman to save the day. I think he co-wrote on Star Trek and Star Trek Into Darkness, the JJ ones. So, yeah, one of those is pretty good. He's also going to be doing a lot more Star Trek for CBS. He's signed an overall deal, a 5-year extension through 2023 that is going to see him expand the franchise for the small screen, including the development of new series, miniseries, and other content, which includes animation. And the word on the street is one of the series that he's trying to get on the ground is going to feature Patrick Stewart reprising his role of Captain Jean-Luc Picard.
Ooh.
So that could be interesting.
Ooh. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about the Star Trek Discovery.
Yeah, I've heard pretty good things about the first season.
Okay.
I it's on that CBS All Access thing where you got to pay to watch it or get the free trial, kind of like YouTube Red and all those. When I'm
right.
So the first season's done now. Maybe it's a good time to just kind of go in and, just binge it all in a week or whatever. But as I've just said 5 minutes ago, there's a lot of shit that I've said I'm going to watch and that I haven't. So just put it on the list at this point, really. But I do like Star Trek. I'm more of a Star Wars guy. If I had to, qualify it, but I've heard good things, and it's not something that does pique my interest. So maybe I'll get around to it one day. Maybe. Do you want to talk some box office?
Yeah, I'm always up for box office. Let's talk it.
It's your favorite. I know. Well, that's why I put the section, is because I know how much you love it. I secretly, I pretend that I'm the one that loves it, but I'm just putting a little charade on for our listeners, because I know you get embarrassed by how much you enjoy your box office numbers.
The box office breakdown.
Box office breakdown.
I'm gonna keep it brief. I didn't do a ton of research on this myself, but there's some cool things to point out. Avengers Infinity War, not the first time we've mentioned it on this podcast episode, has crossed $2 billion worldwide.
Woo!
So that's a pretty big milestone, I would say. I think that makes it the 4th movie to cross the $1 billion threshold. It now sits behind The Force Awakens, Titanic, and Avatar. I think that it'll probably stay in 4th unless Disney does some sort of push, maybe when Avengers 4 comes out, to get it some extra bucks, because it's sitting about $37 million short of The Force Awakens right now, and it's pretty, it's at the point where it's not making a whole lot of money week to week. But It's still making a good amount.
$2 billion is not a shabby figure.
No, that will more than make up for any solo Star Wars story losses, I think. So, yeah, well done, well deserved, I'd say. And since we're going to be talking about both Ocean's 8 and Incredibles 2, they were released on 2 separate weekends, but I figured I'd at least kind of talk about where they ended up for their respective weekends and kind of how they sit now. So Ocean's 8 opened to a pretty respectable $41 million for its opening weekend. And obviously not Avengers level numbers, or maybe not even Incredible level numbers. We'll get there in just a minute. But not bad in its own right. It's crossed $100 million domestically. It'll make a little bit more, kind of throughout its run, but pretty solid debut. $70 million production budget, so it might turn a modest profit. It hasn't done exceptionally well overseas, but yeah, really not too bad. It's only been out for I guess going on 3 weeks now, so that's cool. Incredibles 2, on the other hand, has smashing some fucking records. $182 million for its opening weekend.
Jeez. That's strong.
That's hot shit right there. It's the highest debut for any animated feature film ever by a good margin. I think it beat Finding Dory was the previous holder, and I think it had like 120, 130-ish, somewhere around there.
So it crushed them is what you're saying.
Yeah, it wasn't even close, is what I'm saying.
It's almost like Star Wars coming back after however many years it came back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Something to be said about a sequel that comes back after such a delay.
Yeah, well, yeah, it definitely keeps the hype train going. Jurassic World, when it came out a few years ago, was kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
There was that, revitalized interest in the franchise, certainly. So, Incredibles 2, it's the 8th highest debut ever, any opening weekend ever. So that's pretty astonishing. It's currently sitting close to $500 million worldwide. But bearing in mind that it has had a kind of staggered release schedule for its overseas markets, it should rack up a lot more money in the coming weeks. And it's deserving of that as well, I would say. But we can get into that now. We'll start with Ocean's 8. Probably have a little bit less to say on this if I had to take a guess. But it is directed by Gary Ross, written by Gary Ross and Olivia Milch. It's got a star-studded female cast of Sandra Bullock, Cate Blanchett, Anne Hathaway, Mindy Kaling, Sarah Paulson, Rihanna, Helena Bonham Carter, and
Aquafina!
Aquafina, baby. So it tells the story of Debbie Ocean as she gathers an all-female crew to attempt an impossible heist at New York City's yearly Met Gala. Ocean's 8. What'd you think about it?
It's a movie.
It is a movie, isn't it?
You can go see it. It wasn't... There were some funny parts. I laughed a little bit in a couple parts. It was, but it wasn't a movie that I was angry to be sitting there in the theater watching. It wasn't bad. It just wasn't a movie that I didn't thoroughly enjoy it. It was just, I don't know. It's just okay. I think that I don't really have a whole lot to say about this movie, honestly. I'm out of a kind of loss for words. The transitions felt very Ocean-esque, the way they transition from one area to another and stuff. But I don't know. I didn't really. I thought some of it was kind of stupid. I thought a lot of it was kind of stupid. The humor was fine. The interactions between the characters and stuff was fine. But overall, I think it was a stupid movie. And that's my. I mean, I don't want to sound rough on it or anything. It was okay, but it was just stupid. I mean, it's okay to be a stupid movie, right?
Yeah, because as long as you realize that you're stupid, then it's fine, right?
Surely they recognized they were stupid. Yeah.
I think it was totally fine. Totally fine is where I'm sticking with this one. It's a breezy movie. It's an enjoyable movie. But it feels oddly perfunctory. Like it just doesn't really bring anything new to the table. I enjoyed the cast a lot. But it just, it's your bog standard heist movie. There's really no frills to it. It's just kind of every heist movie you've ever seen before, with the added caveat of a principally female cast, which is cool. Like I said, I think the cast is great. There's some great dynamics between all of them, and I enjoyed pretty much. Even Aquafina, man. She was pretty good. The one named performer in here, Rihanna, as well. I mean, everyone is good. I really had no issues with anyone's performances. It all felt very natural, but it just felt like, I don't know, just didn't build anything. Like as something, I don't know. I mean, this is basically a pseudo sequel to the Ocean's trilogy. But it just, I don't know. Like you mentioned how it kind of had the Ocean's-esque transitions, but I kind of felt like it was missing that Steven Soderbergh touch. Like it felt like it was trying to emulate that, but it never quite got the spirit of it exactly right. Like, it kind of felt like, I don't, like the only reason they did it was like, oh, it's titled Oceans, we have to kind of make it fit into that mold, and it didn't really, I didn't think. Like, it's not particularly clever. It's not particularly challenging. In fact, like, I think there's ways that you can rework some of the plot elements to make it a little bit more exciting, because it's just not a terribly exciting movie. It's it's a pretty movie. I enjoyed the setting a lot. I thought setting in New York, setting it with the Met Gala, like, I liked that a lot. I don't know. It was, I certainly wasn't angry sitting there. It was just kind of takes you on a bit of a ride, and you forget about it the next day. It's kind of where it's at. I'm like a week removed from seeing it, so I'm like trying to quickly look through the plot synopsis, like, what happened in this movie again? Oh yeah, that's what. Okay, yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's just kind of stupid. It was it's a stupid movie. I mean, I don't know. That's about all I got. We can go into spoilers, but I don't think there's a whole lot, and we can go into recommendations, but
yeah. So I mean, just I guess general thoughts. I'm not a Sandra Bullock person. I'm pretty open about that. She is not my preferred actress, but I usually find that she's better than I usually expect her to be, and I thought she was fine here. But I'm definitely a Cate Blanchett person, so.
Yeah, I'm a Cate Blanchett person, and I tell you who I enjoyed this movie was, what's her name? It's Anne Hathaway. I enjoyed Anne Hathaway in this movie.
She was legitimately great here. Yeah, like I said, I didn't have any issues with any of them. I mean, some of the characters were underserviced. Like, I thought Mindy Kaling's character basically did nothing in the movie. But everyone, for the most part, had a pretty good role. Even James Corden. I'm not on the James Corden train myself, but
he was pretty great.
He was pretty fun. Yeah, his character kind of didn't really need to be in the movie, but he was still fun. I thought overall, and there are some Oceans-esque kind of sequences in it that are enjoyable to watch. We got some celebrity cameos as well that are, kind of, useless in the long run, but, kind of sells the atmosphere of it a bit. So, yeah, let's just go ahead and get in the recommendation. Otherwise, I'm going to talk in circles.
Netflix.
Yeah,
just going to go out and say Netflix.
Yeah, I'm going to go Blu-ray on this one for me.
Ooh, okay.
Because I enjoyed it. I own the Oceans trilogy, and I kind of feel like it is better than Oceans 12, and I own Oceans 12, so.
Then by default, then you need to.
I'm a bit of a completionist to the mostly. Like, I don't own Suicide Squad, even though I own all the other DC movies. I'm like, I just cannot bring myself to that level of, like, I cannot do it. Like, that is straight up, someone needs to pay me to own this movie, and, like, I should get a recurring paycheck for owning it. So if you're listening, WB, that's the only way I'm going to own your movie. So listen, I'm open. I'm amenable to offers on that front. But that's, again, watchreviewrepeat@gmail.com. Just send us an email. Andrew will get on the fun too, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that it's well shot. Like I said, I talked about how I didn't think that the Oceans transitions really worked for me. But I thought that the setting worked well for the movie. I think it was much more pristinely shot. I think that's kind of it's a much cleaner, probably digitally shot look. Whereas I rewatched the entire Oceans trilogy before I watched this one actually, and those have a very grungy feel to them that this one was completely lacking. And
does that add to the Oceans character?
I think so, because, like, Soderbergh just has such a really distinct style when he filmed all of those movies, and I felt like, this one just felt hollow in its attempt to replicate that. Like, they just filmed it like a regular movie, and then they slapped some transitions on it, like, oh, we got to Oceansize it. We got to make it a little bit more Oceansy, and it didn't feel authentic to me, whereas...
It didn't feel earned, right? Yeah,
right. So I think that in terms of that style, it didn't earn it. But I thought that as its own movie, as something kind of basically not really connected to Oceans 11, 12, and 13, other than some things we'll talk about in spoilers. I mean, it works. It works perfectly fine on its own. It's totally fine on its own. It's well shot enough, and it's got some plot elements that work, some that definitely don't work. But like I said, it feels like a middle of the pack Oceans movie, which is Oceans 13. I'd say 13 is probably a notch above it, but I think it's still a good hair above where Oceans 12 sits. So as part of the Oceans trilogy, or I guess quadrilogy, anthology. I think quadrilogy is a made-up word that the Alien franchise used, and now I just use it to describe. I think, is it tetralogy? Is it 4? Well, I don't know. Whatever. Who cares? It's in line with the rest, I would say. And I will pick it up for cheap to complete the collection. So it's not a day one purchase for me by any stretch of the imagination, but it's got enough there, got enough value for me at least to warrant a pick it up for cheap on Blu-ray. But you said Netflix, and honestly, that's not really a bad opinion either. So
yeah, total Netflix movie. On to spoilers.
Full spoilers for Ocean's 8. So I guess we can talk about the obvious Ocean's trilogy connections, which weren't really spoiled in the marketing. So there's 2 returning cast members from the Ocean's franchise in the form of Ruben, who I think talks to Debbie kind of early in the movie about the heist, and then Yen comes back towards the end to help with the second heist, the secret heist during the heist, which was one of the stupid plot elements. As a side note, it's kind of cool to see that connectivity there. Apparently, Matt Damon was going to be in the movie, but his role got cut. It's weird that they would take like 2 of the least recognizable Ocean's characters and just plop them in there. I 100% thought that George Clooney was going to show up at the end. Did you feel the same way?
Yeah, especially since they continue to reference his character and stuff.
Wait, and they were very coy about like, oh, he's dead, but is he? And I was just like, so he's not then. Basically, like if you're leaving that as open-ended as you can be while still showing someone's headstone, it's like, so he's not dead. He just faked his death, right? And then, like the literal scene at the end, where she's like talking to him and like opens up the drink, and it the way he was framed, even it just felt like Clooney was just gonna walk up behind her and be like, "What's up?"
Hey, baby.
Well, probably not. I think it's his sister. So.
Oh yeah, it's kind of weird.
Oh, I thought you were someone else. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Well. I don't know. That's Ocean's 8. I don't, like I said, I don't have a whole lot to say. I have a whole lot to say about the second movie we're covering tonight, but not a whole lot on this first one. I was not. I don't know. I wasn't blown away.
It's perfectly fine. Yeah, I mean, I don't have a whole lot to say in spoilers myself. I thought the elements of it were cool. Like I liked kind of the Anne Hathaway, swaparoo, or kind of the bait and switch where we think she's a big old dum-dum like you, but she's actually a little bit more in on the heist. But I felt like the whole third act revelation of, oh, that was just a cover for this heist that we just completed in secret and decided not to tell anyone else about. I'm like, that seems like a real bad plan. Look, I'm not telling you what a good plan is because I don't really know how to rob things personally, but that seems like a real big, that's a big oversight to have. That don't
seem good. Right.
Yeah.
It was impressive, though. Everybody was blown away.
Yeah, I'd say they were definitely blown away. I mean, they made a lot more money, so I guess it worked out well for them because they wrote it that way. But I don't know. I just kind of felt hollow. Look, it felt a bit Ocean's 12 to me, and especially having watched Ocean's 12, basically the entire second and third acts of that movie are completely pointless, and they're all for show, and they're like, JK, we knew all that bullshit was going to happen, so we actually did it this way, and now everything is great. And it's like, well, the problem with that is that movies should be cleverly written enough that they can show everything on screen and it feels earned by the time there's
it's revealed.
By the time it's revealed, right. So, like The Prestige, I think is a good example of kind of an ending that like you're like, oh fuck, I should have seen that coming. And you had everything you needed to put it together, you just didn't. That's on you. This to me felt like there's no inclination towards anything happening at the end other than by the time they just say, they lift the curtain and say, this is what happened instead, motherfucker. Like, okay, well, good for them, I guess. So that's kind of where I stand with it. I also have an issue with like there's not a real villain in this movie, and basically any problem that they could run into, they kind of basically solve more or less before the heist even happens. So there's really not a whole lot of tension to it. You know, the whole like, oh, you can only specially unlock the necklace with this thing. Well, they solve that before they even go there. It's like, okay, you know, if they ran into that issue on site, that would cause a lot of improvisation. That would, you know, shake things up a bit. And the only bit of improvisation they do is something that I think kind of breaks the whole heist, and that is when Sarah Paulson's character kind of throws it into the little fountain there or whatever.
Yeah.
You telling me that would not be caught on camera? Like, there's a whole specific subplot devoted to the fact that they needed to create a blind spot around the restroom. You telling me that there's just a magic blind spot there too? Surely they would definitely review that at some point and be like, wait, hold on.
That bitch just threw a fake necklace in the water.
But, you know, that's just kind of this movie in a nutshell, isn't it?
It's just stupid.
Yeah. Maybe I don't know that it knows it's stupid. I think it thinks it's smarter than it actually is. I think that's part of the problem. But you know,
it's part of the problem. I don't know, man.
It's showy. It's pretty. The cast is good. You know, good
it's
chemistry.
Funny in certain parts. I thought it was funny.
It's funny. Yeah, James Corden gets a pretty good line. You know, you got two of these. When he's in the guy's apartment, that was pretty good.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
So yeah, you know, there's fun to be had, but it's you know, don't go in expecting a whole lot, really. That, you know, yeah, keep your expectations at the door, and you might have a decent time. That's probably it, you know.
That's it. Let's talk about the second movie, man. I'm real excited about the second one.
Okay. Do you want to talk about the little short film we got in front of it?
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, you had a fun fact about it, so I figured you had a little bit of something to say about it.
I couldn't see it through my tears, so I don't know if I have a whole lot of comments, but god damn, that little short film hit me right in the feels real hard, man. That was really good. And she ate her fucking kid.
She sure did.
She ate the fucking little doughboy. I couldn't help but laugh whenever she ate him, too. I felt like an asshole. This theater was pretty quiet, and I started laughing because she just, fuck you, I'm eating you, you know, and she eats him. But, yeah, man, and the clarity of the animation, specifically the food, what a good-looking animation that first little short film was, man. It looked really nice. What'd you think about that little thing?
Yeah, it was good. So Bao is the name of the film. I know you talked about it earlier, but as a refresher, it was written and directed by Domi Shi. It's Pixar's first film by an Asian woman, so that's quite cool. Okay. Yeah, it didn't bring me to tears. I will say, but I thought that, you know, the idea of it was really, really spectacular. Definitely the animation of it. Made me hungry for sure, but you know, there was the moment where she eats him. We're like, oh fuck, what's going on now? But you know, once it's kind of revealed what's going on, it's just like damn, that's good right there.
Yeah, and then her son shows through the door, and he looks just like the little doughboy. Oh god, my heart melted, man. It was so good.
Yeah, it's good. It was really, really good. I feel like Pixar usually does really well with these shorts, and this one for me was no exception. So, yeah, really well done. I guess we can talk about Incredibles 2 now. It seems like you've been hankering to get there. So, it's written and directed by Brad Bird, who also wrote and directed the first one, called The Incredibles. It returns Craig T. Nelson, Holly Hunter, Sarah Vowell, and Samuel L. Jackson, alongside newcomers Huck Milner, Bob Odenkirk, and Catherine Keener. So in this one, Bob Parr, Mr. Incredible, is left to care for the kiddos, while his wife Helen, also known as Elastigirl, is out saving the world.
Yeah.
So, this is a fucking awesome movie.
Yeah.
That's my personal hot take. One might even say that it is incredible.
It is an incredible movie. Each one of the characters gets a whole lot of spotlight. There's motivation for each and every one of them. It's real. It's earned. I thought the voice acting was top notch. The animation was top notch. I don't know. It's a great movie, man. I don't know. I'm at lost for words, but my my sense of admiration is on the polar opposite end of the spectrum from Ocean's 8.
Yeah.
This is a really freaking good movie. What'd you think? Did you enjoy it?
I loved it. It was, really, really had a good time with this one. Let me ask you something. Did you rewatch the first one at any point kind of recently before this one came out?
I did not. Did you?
I did. I actually watched it the same day, so I kind of did a little double feature of my own. And, it's actually interesting that it doesn't really need that, because this movie is actually almost structurally identical to the first one.
Is it?
Yeah. And there's things that work better, and there's things that don't work as well as the first one. I'd say if I had to stack them up overall, I think the first one is better for a few reasons we'll get into. But this one works really well. And I don't really, in the same way that I don't give Force Awakens a lot of shit for kind of being a greatest hits, remix of the original Star Wars trilogy, I don't really give this one a lot of shit for hitting a lot of the same beats, because it doesn't take place. It takes place immediately after the first one ends. But it's been 14 years since the first one came out. 2004 to 2018, like that's a pretty significant gap, and that's a good generational gap too, really. And so it makes perfect sense, I think, to kind of take it back to basics, use the template that worked before, and just kind of update it, and bring a couple new elements to it, so it's not so samey. But it adds a new wrinkle to even things that it did before. So I think the first one, there's a lot of Mr. Incredible kind of sneaking out on his family to go do superhero things, and this one kind of flips that on its head by having Elastigirl as the character that goes out and does the superhero-y things, while Mr. Incredible is left to kind of take care of the kids. He's maybe he's not the best at it, but he's trying. He's putting an earnest effort into it. And there's just a lot in it that works so well. I mean, the cast is wonderful. Craig T. Nelson, Holly Hunter are Mr. Incredible and Elastigirl. Fantastic. The kids are great. And we get a couple new additions in Bob Odenkirk and Catherine Keener, who are good. And Brad Bird reprises his role as Edna Mode, who is fantastic. I always enjoy Edna. What surprised me most, and I don't think it should surprise me, but I think I hadn't seen the first Incredibles in at least a few years, and that's probably an underestimate if I had to say.
I haven't seen it in a long time.
I kind of forgot. Like it's not to say that the first one is ugly, but there's a lot of flat textures, and there's just in my head it looks amazing, and then I rewatch it with 2018 sensibilities. I'm like, oh, this doesn't look very good. Like, it's still well animated, and it's an incredible movie in spite of kind of the aging that you can kind of see in the animation technology.
Though? You can tell the aging.
Yeah, it's a very surprising amount. But then you watch Incredibles 2, and it has a consistent style between the two, but holy fuck, does it just step the game up. Like, Incredibles 2 is amazing looking. Like, animation is just incredible.
No, it does. It looks awesome.
Like, the textures and everything are night and day between the two. And it's 14 years of technology advancements, so it totally makes sense. Don't get me wrong, but it's...
But you think of, like, I haven't seen the first Incredibles in a long time. And in my mind, I imagine it looking the same way.
Exactly. So that's where I was until I rewatched it. I'm like, oh no, that's not the case at all. So kind of going
to do that.
It's interesting though. I mean, it's like I said, 14 years of developments. It's completely logical that it would look so different. It looks so advanced now, but it's a testament, I think, to the first one that it holds up so well. For its other elements, and like I said, it's still animated very well. It just shows its age here and there.
Right.
Yeah, I had a really, really wonderful time with this one. I've talked about multiple times about how this is what the Fantastic Four movies should have been, or future movies should be. This is the mold to follow, because they capture the family dynamic just so well. It's so authentic, and everyone just gets a nice turn here, especially Mr. Incredible and Elastigirl. The increased focus on Elastigirl was greatly appreciated. I think she what they did with her character here was great. I think Violet got much more to work with here than in the first one. I think Dash got less to work with, but as a thing of kind of trading maybe focus of one sibling for the other one, and the way that they kind of flipped around the focus for the parents totally makes sense. And then we got a lot more Jack here, and fucking Jack steals the show.
Yeah, Jack's great.
Yeah, so it's a really, really fun movie. It's a good crowd pleasing movie. I think it's going to play well to so many different generations of audiences. It's got a fantastic score from Michael Giacchino. So it's got everything going for it. I mean, a movie makes $182 million in an opening weekend. Usually it's for a reason. Not always. It doesn't always mean that it's a fantastic movie or an incredible movie in the case of this one. But fuck yeah, dude. Incredibles 2 is the shit. And
what'd you think about the Pixar, I guess it's a trend now. I know they did it with Coco and they did it with this one. The little intro there with the actors and the animators and stuff.
Oh, okay, yeah, they just have a little message before the movie.
Yeah, what do you think about that?
I mean, it's fine.
It is what it is.
I can live without it. I would say, but it's sometimes it's nice to see, the face behind the voices or something like that.
I guess. I don't know. I find it strange.
They just want some recognition, man.
That's it, I guess. I don't know. Like I said, I think it's strange. They did it with. Did they do it with Frozen as well?
I don't recall.
I don't recall either. I do know they did it with Coco though. But either way, it is what it is, man. It's an awesome movie. Let's take that into our segue with recommendations. Yeah.
Let's. Can we have a joint decision on this one to see this in theaters?
See it in theaters. Absolutely. It's a fantastic movie.
It is, yeah. I mean, it's
good for everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
I always harp on the experience at the theater. And I think if you're going to see it with somebody, it's good. If you're going to see it with children, it's good. I think if you're going to see it by yourself, like I did, I think it's good. I don't see any reason not to see this movie in theaters. I think it's an experience well had, and I think you might. I think if the sooner you see it and the more reaction you can hear in the audience, I think it's probably I think it adds to the experience, I think, a little bit. Which I think adds to my point to go see it in the movie theater. But if you go see it by yourself and you're the only one in the theater, I still think you'll enjoy the movie. So no reason at all not to go see it. What do you think? Yeah.
I mean, 100% see this as soon as you can. Nearest theater that you can, unless it's a shitty one. Go see it in one that has proper visual and sound. I saw it in IMAX. Did you just movie pass it? How'd you see this?
I movie passed it at the Cobb.
Okay, so a good theater to watch it in. Yeah, no, I enjoyed seeing it in IMAX. I think it's definitely worthwhile from a visual standpoint. They really. Especially, like I said, coming right off the first Incredibles, they upped the animation game in a big fucking way. And it's everything you'd want out of a movie like this, I feel. So I got what I wanted and then some, I felt. There's things that we'll get, it's probably more spoiler talk, that, I don't know, it didn't totally work for me, but I liked pretty much everything here. There wasn't any one single thing for me that was just an obvious, wow, that was bad. It was just varying levels of good to amazing or to incredible, just to keep the pun going. So, that's where I stand on it. Shall we move on to spoilers?
Let's do it. Spoilers.
Full spoilers for Incredibles 2. So I will start kind of with what I've danced around a bit. I think that where this one lacks and the first one excelled is the villain. I felt like the reveal was pretty obvious. Wasn't terribly surprising. I just didn't think that the Evelyn character was nearly as strong as Syndrome was from the first one. Obviously, I had the benefit of watching them in kind of quick succession, but I just felt like, even in the context of just the second one, I kind of felt like her motivations were bit lacking. I don't know. I mean, I enjoyed the dynamic between, her and Bob Odenkirk's character, where he's just a massive fanboy and, he's got this kind of childlike belief that, if they brought superheroes back legally, then the world would be a safer place because their parents got killed because they couldn't get access to the superheroes. I kind of get that. It's a little silly, but again, it's kind of got a childlike motivation to it, whereas her is just kind of the opposite of that. We're like, well, because my parents were dumb enough to try to think to go for the superheroes first, I want to make superheroes like responsible for the worst things ever and never legal again. Like, it just seems like a very extreme version of that. I guess maybe it's intended to be kind of the polar opposite now that I kind of spell it out like that, but I don't know. Didn't totally work for me. What about you?
Yeah, it was definitely very obvious. But like you said in the non-spoiler section, it didn't hinder my experience at all.
No, not at all. Yeah.
I do think that character, I don't even think it really diminished the actual characters themselves. It just made the villain less compelling, I guess, as a villainous character. Because I thought in and of itself she was fine, but I don't know how to explain it. I don't know how to put it into words. Like I said, I think the brother and sister combo worked well on its own. I think by adding a villainous coding to it, it didn't diminish what those characters had. It just made the villainous portion of it less compelling. But it didn't hinder the experience at all. Because at the end of the day, it's a kid movie. You know what I mean? And I think it was totally fine. That portion of it. I tell you what I thoroughly enjoyed. I thoroughly enjoyed the father figure at home. I thought that was a really fun way, a really fun twist to put into the story there, and I thought they did it really well. I think that Mr. Incredible had a lot of character growth, along with the kid. I think the character growth of all of the characters is incredible. I think it was a really compelling story overall. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. That's what I got. It's my take on it. It's a character piece. I definitely think it's a character piece.
Yeah, well, that's where it excels, is it has likable characters, and it puts them in situations that forces them to, grow and evolve, and that's what makes compelling movies most of the time. It's a winning formula for sure, and it helps when characters are so enjoyable, when it's so beautifully animated as it is here. There's so much to like here. There's just really so much to like here. So, I'm pointing to the one thing that didn't totally work for me. Really, everything else did. I like the action sequences are great. I enjoyed a lot of kind of the Elastigirl sequences that we got, since we kind of had the increased focus on her. And the Incredibile was pretty fucking great. That whole sequence and kind of the mansion that they're in was pretty great, especially kind of towards the end when like Frozone gets kind of the goggles put on him and like he immediately turns on him. Like, it's, I don't know, there's moments of intensity. There's nothing quite like the first one. Like the first one, there's a moment where Mr. Incredible thinks that Syndrome has murdered his entire family, and he's like about to murder his assistant, and there's nothing like nearly that dark in this movie. I think that's partly why I like the first one so much, is it has kind of those moments of like, oh fuck, like this is sometimes veering away from being a very strictly kids movie. Well, not, it's not, it's still close enough that they can get away with that sort of thing. This one felt more kind of wholesome, I guess, overall. But that's okay too. Back to the villain. I enjoyed. I kind of liked the idea of the Screenslaver as a character, but at a certain point, it kind of felt like, oh, this is a constructed character, or this is just it's a smokescreener for Weber, and that's just kind of what it turned out to be. I did enjoy the epilepsy scene though. That was something, wasn't it?
The whole talking about
the whole. The screens kind of lighting up as she's fighting.
It was totally awesome.
It was pretty awesome. There was an epilepsy warning.
Yeah.
On the door as I walked in. I'd heard something about it online, and when I got to it, I was just like, yeah, well, they're not wrong, are they?
Yeah, no, it was definitely cool. I thought it was real intense that they put those warnings up there. It's like, fuck, what am I getting into, man?
Yeah. Maybe this isn't a kid-friendly movie. Oh no. Jack though, just the power set was fucking incredible, and Giant Jack I think on the boat was fucking amazing. I was not ready for that one.
When he swells up and sits on him, and he, I laughed a whole lot in this movie, man.
That's it. Yeah, it's just too much fun. Like it's a thrill ride pretty much from the get go, and yet it still kind of has those feels. You know, it hits you in the feels too because it's so authentic with its approach to the characters. But there's certainly some spectacle in it, and I think Jack's a big part of that. I feel like Jack's a character that, you know, very quickly could have been a tired kind of, whatever. But he's legitimately entertaining the whole way through, and that fucking raccoon fight was goddamn incredible.
Yeah, it was. And so was the scene with the little thing where Jack spends the night with what's her name?
Edna. Yeah,
Edna, and he's walking down the hallway with his lollipop, acting like king shit. I thought that was hilarious too. All of it's really good, and it's so earned. I don't know. I can't think of. Your call out on the villain and stuff. I mean, it's definitely a valid point. But aside from that, I can't think of really any negative things to say.
Yeah,
about the movie.
That's the one thing
good.
for me that just kind of stuck out as, this is definitely a bit of a step down here. I think a lot of everything else is probably just going to be personal preference, whether you enjoy that more in one or two. Because I think they just kind of split the focus differently here. You know, it's a similar kind of trappings and plot beats, but each character kind of gets a little bit different thing to do. So yeah, and it's all really well done. In spite of kind of the sameness, I thought that there was enough unique flavor to it that it made it totally worthwhile. So yeah, it's a great movie. Incredibles 3. You ready for an Incredibles 3?
Absolutely, I'll take it 100%. I'm 100% in on that.
Yeah, me too. And I would think that we wouldn't have to wait 14 years. I think that with the way that this thing has done financially speaking, I'd be surprised if we don't see another Incredibles within the next 3 or 4 years, or at least know that they're fast tracking an Incredibles 3. Whether Brad Bird has to sit on it for a couple of years to really kind of hammer out the best idea possible. Yeah, that's fair. Pixar's obviously got other franchises and other original IPs that they can play with to fill the time, but I think that this has shown that clearly there's a great affinity for these characters, for the franchise, and I think the time is nigh to really keep the train rolling. So get me one more Incredibles, please. Or I'll take a few more, really. But you got to do it right. We don't want to run into the ground. But another one, like this, like the first one, 2 for 2 so far. So
I'll take another. Thank you.
Yep. You got anything else to add, or you want to leave it at that?
Leave it at that. Go see it.
Go see it. All right. So catching up. Have you been watching anything lately?
Yeah, you'll be proud of me. I grinded out your Barry show.
Oh, very good. What'd you think?
Thought it was pretty good.
Yeah. It's pretty dark in some spots, wasn't it?
It was dark in some spots, and it certainly made me laugh in a few others. I think it was a pretty strong show. I really enjoyed it. I definitely like. I don't know what it is, but I have an affinity for short run shows. Get your story out and make it as dense as you can within those 8 episodes or whatever it is, and be done with it. I really appreciate that. And this show had a story that it wanted to tell. It told it, and it was done. And
it's getting a second season, but
yeah.
It felt like a very complete package for its first season, while still leaving it in a spot where you're like, okay, where does it go from here? So,
Right. So I think I don't know. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was funny. I really appreciate that dark humor. It's funny because I was hanging out with somebody the other night and they said, let's put on a comedy movie. Let's put on a funny movie. And I was like, what do you don't like watch Tropic Thunder? And like Tropic Thunder to me is a funny movie. And yeah, that's a funny movie. That's great. But aside from that, I couldn't think of any other comedy movies. It's like, do you want to watch Three Billboards? It's like, hold on a second. Three Billboards is not a. I don't think a lot of people find that.
It's not really a comedy.
Do you want to watch in Bruges? You want to watch that? And it's like, I don't think you'll. I don't think that's really a strong comedy movie. So I have maybe my personality is maybe it's telling of my personality. I don't know. But something like Barry made me laugh. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think that's a good comedy show, even though it's not, I don't know. I think dark comedy is my jam. I don't know if I can connect with conventional comedy shit anymore. I don't watch a lot of it.
Barry is such a great guy. Barry.
Yeah, that guy, fucking Ivan the clone.
Yeah, NoHo Hank, he's pretty good.
But yeah, I thought it was awesome. Did watch the finale of Westworld.
Okay, no spoilers. I'm still too behind. But what'd you think?
Okay. I thought it was great. I'm excited for season 3. Of course, I've caught the Legion finale, which I think was probably, I think that was maybe a week ago, 2 weeks ago, maybe. And what else is there? I think that's pretty much it. I did watch LA Confidential last night, as a matter of fact, with Russell Crowe and Danny DeVito and who else was in that? The fucking dude. What's his name?
The dude.
I can't remember his name. Anyways, I did watch LA Confidential and I thought it was totally fine. Thought it was okay. It's a good movie to fall asleep to, I thought. But yeah, that's about it. That's about all I've been up to. What about you, man? What you been up to? I know you went and watched some fucking baseball. I do know that.
I did watch some baseball. You are very correct in saying that. I took a little trip up to Atlanta, Georgia, for a few days. My brother flew out. Jordan Brown, previous guest of this podcast, met me out there. We had a good time. Explored the city a bit. Caught a couple Atlanta Braves games. Unfortunately, they played terribly both times we went and lost both times. And promptly won the one game that they played when we were in town, but decided not to go. So that's not very nice. But yeah, no, it is kind of similar to the Philly trip where it was just like walking and walking and walking. I'm like, oh man, like I should be in shape by now, but I'm not. But my legs hurt. It was fun. Yeah. I'd been to Atlanta a few times before, so it wasn't my first foray into the city, but it was his first time. So we did some of the more touristy stuff, like the World of Coke, Georgia Aquarium. But we saw some other stuff too that was pretty cool. Aside from baseball, I know you're a huge fan of baseball, so you're pretty jealous of that. But
I love baseball. It's probably my favorite pastime. I watch as much baseball as I can get.
Yeah, I would say it was good. Good beer, good food.
No! Just so to clarify, no, I hate fucking baseball. Baseball is the worst goddamn sport.
You couldn't have that on the record. What I can do is I'm going to cut all of this out. So I'm just going to continue from the point where you say you love baseball. No one will be the wiser. No one. I hold all the cards.
Oh, Jesus.
It was a good time at the park. I mean, they play in SunTrust Park. It's their second year there. So it's the first time I'd been to the new baseball park. So it's a nice park. I feel like baseball is a totally different experience in person, but I know how much you don't like baseball, so I was just like, I'm not even going to ask Andrew on this trip.
The last time I went to a baseball game, I think I went to a Rays game, and I think I left at like the top of the fifth, bottom of the fifth, and I was like, fuck, I got to get out of here. I'm falling asleep. It's terrible.
I can't do it. Yeah, and that was indoors too, so...
Yeah.
But yeah,
if I'm sweating my ass off, I'm leaving at like bottom of the third, top of the third. I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm gone. Anyways, sorry, I'll let you talk.
No, that's all right. I don't really have a whole lot to offer. We had a lot of sour beers up there. Been on a sour beer kick lately. Orpheus Brewing, some really good shit there. We ended up going to the brewery, I think the last day we were there, and tried a couple things. I actually have a big bottle. I was actually going to crack it open to record tonight and have a good time, but then I was just like, no, I got to do shit after that. So I would be pissed drunk.
2 days.
Yeah, I'd be pissed drunk by the time I drank that thing. So that's not a responsible decision. So what I'm thinking is, maybe next time we record, we'll be in the same room. So maybe we can try it together. I mean, that seems like a good idea, right? So
yeah.
I'm trying to think if there's anything I've been watching. I've been kind of running around. I mean, even when I got back from our Philadelphia trip, I had to work for a few days. Just been dealing with a lot of last minute stuff, getting situated, and obviously now working on moving stuff. So I really haven't had that much time to watch things other than what we've already talked about. I watched the Ocean's Trilogy, I watched Ocean's 8, I watched Incredibles 1, and I watched Incredibles 2. So I'm hoping that once I, once I'm in the free and clear, hopefully within the next week or so, then I'll have some more time to get around to things. I know Luke Cage Season 2 dropped, and I haven't even looked at it at all, so that's definitely something that I would more immediately like to watch. So
is that out now?
Yeah, it's been out for a few days.
Oh shit, I'm so behind.
Yeah.
We still have to watch Jurassic Park, which I think is our next episode, yeah?
It is indeed, yeah. Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom will be our next episode. Like I said, timing-wise, we're still behind, but by a little bit, but we'll get around to it when we get around to it. I'm not busting down the doors to go watch it, honestly, but I will give it a look. I'll give it a fair shake and just see how it is, and we'll talk about it certainly. But that's pretty much it for me. So I guess while we're on that note, we can go ahead and call it a day then, right?
That's it.
All right. So thank you guys for listening to another episode. If you enjoyed what you heard, please spread the word. If you'd like to support us on Patreon, we would greatly encourage that you do. If you just head to our website, watchreviewrepeat.com, hit the premium tab, and just follow the become a patron button. And by doing so, you'll get access to our bonus episodes. Our current bonus episode is the Indiana Jones franchise. We'll be recording another bonus episode sometime in the future, probably out early July. I think we're going to try to get it out the 1st of July, but with my schedule as it is, there's no fucking way that's going to happen. So sometime in July, we'll have some more announcements on that front, but you can still enjoy the Indiana Jones episode until there. That is the only way you can access it at present. And you'll also get early access to all of our regular episodes. So there's a few benefits. It's only a couple bucks a month, and basically just helps us keep the project a little bit more sustainable moving forward. And if you want more content, then it's not a bad idea. So think about it. You can follow us on Twitter at WRRPod, like us on Facebook, send any questions, comments, or suggestions to our Gmail account, WB included, if you still want to pay us for Suicide Squad Blu-ray ownership. Still on the table. Just send that over to watchreviewrepeat@gmail.com. And intro and outro track is Mechanolith by Kevin MacLeod, licensed under the Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0 license. And as we just mentioned, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom will be our next episode. So we hope to have it up as soon as we can. But there's some logistical concerns that take the precedence right now. So
we got life. You got life to live.
Got so life. You got a back to fix. So, there's so many things.
We'll watch Jurassic World when we get to it, and you'll hear about it when we get to it.
Yeah, it should be a little on the shorter side, I would think. We should hopefully be getting back to just kind of regular levels of news and regular levels of one movie or one show kind of thing going forward. But we'll see. We'll take it one episode at a time at this point. So look forward to our next episode, and we hope you enjoyed this one, as we said. Until then, that's it for me. Laters on the menge.
I love it. Adios, everyone. Have a good day, night, life.